job interview ever felt off, but you couldn't prove it? Today's video is going to give you language for what you may have felt. Hi, welcome back to Black Girls Unmasking. I'm Tamika, and on this channel, I help Black neurodivergent women navigate life and work on their terms. By the end of this video, you'll know the red flags to look for and what to do without sabotaging yourself. And if this sounds helpful to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to get more in future videos. Let's talk about bias that can be disguised as vibes. You may be called intense with no specifics. You may be asking clear questions, asking for metrics, culture, asking about the management style. And if they respond with vague words like humble, coachable, and culture fit, these are all red flags, and I'm going to tell you why. Anytime someone describes their culture with people being humble is usually code for we don't appreciate when people speak out about things that they see that don't hit right with them. And the word coachable, don't even get me started on that. Because in corporate America, most spaces don't use the word coachable in the way that it actually intended. And I'm not talking about sports coaching, I'm talking about professional coaching. And as someone who's been formally trained in that field, I know that coaching really is about being curious, meeting people where they are to help them get to where they want to be, and not about telling someone what to do. That's not coaching. But oftentimes in corporate, coachable turns into, you're going to do what I say. So watch out for those words. Another thing that can happen in this kind of vibe situation, they're warm with you until you name your value. You may lead with an end-to-end project where you name a specific metrics of how you've helped increase revenue or save time or some other impactful result that you were able to get. And then that turns into this. From there, they start asking you more questions to prove that you actually did what you said, to the point where it takes over the entire conversation as if they don't believe you. These are all things to look out for in these types of situations. So anytime you are addressed with specific words or asking to prove yourself around these things, you can ask questions that requires them to bring it back to actual outcome and specific information. So asking, what does success look like in this role at the end of 90 days? At that point, they can't give you a vibe. Usually it's around concrete information, metrics you're going to be measured by should you be hired in this role. These things are already laid out before a position is posted, before a budget is approved to actually hire for the position. All of these things, full job descriptions and then the job posting, all of these things are already developed well before they talk to you. So if anyone comes back and says, I don't know, that's a whole nother red flag. But for now, just know it's okay to redirect with questions that require them to give you something a bit more specific. Let's talk about some double standards when it comes to professional coding, shall we? That can look like tone policing. For example, you seem passionate, but it's not a compliment. It's low-key coming across as almost like a warning that they don't really appreciate the way that you're showing up. And not that the way you're showing up is necessarily wrong, but it's hitting a bit different for them and making them uncomfortable. Some examples of that tone policing can be around scrutinizing your gaps of employment, which is a whole nother situation. Be very careful about disclosing specific reasons why you may have been on an employment gap. And just a quick hint, anytime that opens up more information around if you took medical leave, if you cared for a loved one, if you were out because you just had a child, these are all areas where discrimination can come into play very quickly, and you're not required to tell them that. How about scrutinizing your speech? Many times, because our brains are wired differently, some of us talk really fast, or we lean in that ambiguity in speech where one thing is a link that leads us to another idea in conversation. And some of us, like me, I fall on the opposite end to where I really need more time to answer that question, that sometimes I don't give an answer right off the cuff. I want to reflect, or maybe I want to ask questions to make sure I'm understanding what it is that I'm answering. If you're being scrutinized one way or the other, this is another red flag. Because in corporate America, oftentimes you are rewarded for speed, even if you're wrong. Or if you given this, now some of you may not take this well, but here's what I know, and it personally bothers me, so I would love to know what you all think in the comments. if you're told, oh, you're spicy, I really hate that word. I'm just going to tell you now. The whole spicy or neural spicy, I'm not really with it, but if it's your thing, go for it. Let me know if that bothers you in the comments. So basically, essentially, when these things come up, the interviewer is not really evaluating you on your value, what you've accomplished, your qualifications or skills. They're evaluating you based on their comfort level with you. And that is a big problem. So here's how to protect yourself. When someone asks you a question that has nothing to do with your qualifications, what you can do is just redirect and say, happy to clarify how I delivered X, Y, and Z in my last role. Let's talk about it. It's okay to redirect because I can promise you, if there's an interview guide that was created specifically an interview for this role, which means every single person who interviews in every stage all have pre-crafted questions that they've worked with the HR team to develop in order to interview you. So these off-the-cuff questions or vibes and things like that, they're all red flags. So keep those receipts, sis. Write down those notes immediately after the interview so it's fresh, and document that with a date. This last one is around boundary pushing questions. So it can look like them asking you questions about your family plans, childcare. Now, you may not have even volunteered this information, but there are some assumptions being made. Even if you did volunteer it, now they're asking you more about that than they are about your qualifications and your skills. Asking you questions that are age coded. Oh, I noticed you went to X university. What year did you graduate? They're trying to figure out how old you are because that's not something that's allowed to be asked on job applications anymore. It's a whole red flag. Disability adjacent probing, and this is whether you've disclosed to them that you have a disability or not. When they start asking you questions on, do you think you'd be able to do this? These types of questions, especially those that are making assumptions. So, for example, if you're interviewing for a role that will be customer facing and they're asking you, would you be comfortable giving them direct eye contact? Those are things that are red flags and that are essentially shouldn't be asked of you because it requires you to tell them more about your disability. And maybe that's not something you want to do, and that's okay. You don't have to. And here's one of my favorites: salary anchoring games. And what I mean by that is a company has a position posted, they haven't posted the salary, but then they want to turn around and ask you, what are your salary requirements? Or even bolder, what's your current or last salary? These are no-nos, big no-nos. They shouldn't be asking you about these things. And I know we have states that have salary transparency laws that require them to post those salaries. I got more tea on that in another video. And here's the problem with that. You could be undercutting yourself by giving them a number that's nowhere near the range that they're offering, which means you could be leaving money on the table. So if someone asks you, what's your expected salary, and you have no context of what their salary range is, what you can turn around and ask them is, what is the budgeted range for this role? And there is an answer to that question because, like I said before, there's no position that's getting posted without it being approved in a budget, period, because that budget is what's going to pay you your salary. So positions can't get posted without being approved against the budget. And it doesn't matter the size of the company, the geographical location, they all have budgets because that's literally what's going to pay you your salary and your paycheck. And then follow up in writing as to what you all discussed with that. So with this whole salary question, just to confirm, you mentioned that the budgeted salary for this was XYZ. That way you have it documented to protect you later. So we talked about vibes and bias, double standards, and boundary pushing questions. But your job is to stay grounded. Ask specific questions that require them to give you factual responses, not vibes, and protect your bag. Don't give away something without them giving you information first. So comment below, what's the wildest interview question you've ever been asked? And if this was helpful for you, make sure you like this video and subscribe so you'll know when the next video drops. In the next video I would recommend you go to next, I'm going to be talking about what companies really mean, many of them, when they say we want to be inclusive. The link is in the description below. Talk soon.